I remember this one story that probation's HR rep told me many years ago, and this was before my time. Uh, According to what she told me, probation would do activities outside the federal building. It was work-related activities where they would stay at different places. Um, of course, they still kind of do that, but she made it sound like they used to do a lot more of it in the past. And she mentioned in one occasion, one probation officer or federal employee, I don't know if he was a probation officer or a manager, but of course it was a federal employee in probation. And they had stayed at a hotel. The entire unit, the probation department stayed at that hotel for that activity. And here I would have to say that I think what was done to this employee was the best action or the best corrective procedure, which is very rare for them, I guess, to do, based on my experience at least. And that's that this again federal employee in probation here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. During that activity, everybody would start going to their rooms. Obviously, there's been a lot of drinking, which is very questionable, especially when it's a work-related event. And, the guy hooked up with a female that was not a federal employee. And of course, there have been cases of in these federal activities or workplace federal activities of people hooking up with other people. There have been many cases like that, according to her and according to a few others there that were there way before I was. But in this particular case, this guy hooked up with a young lady that ended up being a minor. She actually ended up being a teenager that was also staying at that hotel. And where he found her, I have no clue. I don't know if he found her at some activity of the hotel or the restaurant or the parking lot or the hallways or the lobby. I don't know. But the situation got so ugly that obviously the parents that were there complained. It became a bit of a mess. Yeah, he did take her into his hotel room, uh, the one assigned to him, and things happened. Things happened. Now, obviously, after further investigation, he lost his job, and the federal government had to pay out money, hush money, to keep that family quiet, to keep that family away from the media, to keep that family, in other words, they pay to protect the reputation of the courts. In this case, specifically U.S. probation of Puerto Rico. So people, when we when we want to be or try to pretend to be more moral than other government agencies that are below them, like local, state, or municipalities, or county, or whatever you want to call them, city. Again, the federal government, I think they do a better job at hiding the misconduct of their employees. Because once again, that should have been on the news. That should have been on the newspapers. Uh, at the time, social media was not a big thing. The internet did exist, but not to the level of today. But the point here, once again, is for us to understand and get to know our governments. because we are quick to criticize, even external governments from other countries. We are good and quick and fast to criticize local governments, whether, like I mentioned before, state, county, city, etc., towns. But it's it's become a bit of a taboo to not emphasize so much federal. When there are things that the federal government also pays out hush money so as to keep things out of the news, out of the media, etc. You know, they don't want things to become a scandal. So once again, as I mentioned before, we to a certain extent, I think they did a good job, at getting rid of that person, being with a minor in a hotel room at a work-related activity, federal work activity. But the fact that they had to pay hush money, that's where things get a little. That's where things get a little. Again, money being um spent in a very irresponsible way. And I know that, for example, the current administration is cutting off funding from many places where he sees money being misused or wasted over stupidity. I mean, this case would be one, obviously. And of course, it happened decades ago. But that comes to show you the nature of the federal government, the nature of government, the nature of uh, of the workplace, and and the toxicities of the same. Again, this was a guy. Again, I point the finger in every direction, not just women, not just the gay community, but also, guys. Like I've mentioned before, guys are also part of this problem. But it is, see, these are the stories that tend to, at least in my case, it tends to poison my blood. I've said it before. It poisoned my blood because you see this entity as borderline sacred, for lack of a better word, but they're not. It's not. A cover up of that nature, it's to me, it's disgusting. So once again, when I say, he with no sin cast the first stone, this is one of the many, many, many pebbles of incidences that I've encountered. Of course, most of them I've encountered them directly. I've lived them. I've overheard with my own ears and seen with my own eyes. But in this case, it was something HR told me. So it's more like an allegation as well, or hearsay, if you want to call it that. But it still shows, excuse me, it still shows the nature of the federal government here in Puerto Rico, and they don't. Of course, these are things they cover up. But when you look at the bigger reality, it's just amazing that you know, over all these years, that at least in my case, I thought federal was again borderline holy. They could never do anything wrong, but hey, things go wrong. Things happen. Obviously, getting rid of that person was good, but hush money, that's where again I think that person should have had to pay that money, not the government, not the taxpayer. And I'm actually glad that this new administration, which again I'm not pro any party or any president, but the fact that he's trying to clean up the misuse of money and power at the federal level is a good idea. I think that's great. I think that's good, and I hope he continues doing what he's doing right now. So again, my bigger point here is that the federal government pays hush money to hush people up from misconduct at the federal government. The same thing happened with Mrs. Peterson not too long ago, by the way. I was there. Hush money. Be quiet. Don't say anything. We don't want this to become a scandal. That's how beautiful and honorable and holy the federal government and court system here in Puerto Rico is. Till next time.